Let's jump to what's probably the best game of the weekend in college football. Tennessee's getting 10 points here going to Georgia. Everyone was kind of shocked by that line. I even saw Uncle Lou post out, take the points, because he's disgusted with his Bulldogs up to this point. But let's talk about Tennessee. 33.6 points per game, 23rd in the country. 5.9 yards per play, 41st in the country. 4.9 yards per rush, 35th in the country. 8.2 yards per pass, 22nd in the country. And a sack percentage given up of 7.08%, which is 92nd in the country. Now let's talk about that defense, which has the case as one of the best, if not the best in the country. 13.8 points per game, 5th in the country. 4.1 yards per play, 2nd in the country. 2.9 yards per rush, 5th in the country. 6 yards per pass, 18th in the country, and 8.30% sack percentage, 20th in the country. Now, Georgia on the other side, offensively, 28.4 points per game, 51st in the country, 5.8 yards per play, 50th in the country, 3.9 yards per rush, 85th in the country, 7.6 yards per pass, 43rd in the country, and a sack percentage given up of 4.52%, 38th in the country. Defensively, they allow 20.4 points per game, 19th in the country, 4.9 yards per play, 30th in the country, 3.4 yards per rush, 19th in the country, 6.7 yards per pass, 41st in the country, and 6.45% sack percentage, 54th in the country. Tyler, what do you have to say about your team in this game?
Oh, yeah. After the Ole Miss game, I was pretty upset. Now, once again, I actually had Ole Miss winning this game. I thought Ole Miss would beat us. This was a must-win situation for Lane Kiffin. This is also kind of a throw. Well, I wouldn't say a throwaway game for UGA. It was still a big game, but this game right here means much more, especially now that they lost. But I just didn't think Georgia would come out and do absolutely nothing offensively and just get blown out like they did against Ole Miss. I was very concerned about this game after the Ole Miss game. And then I watched Tennessee play Mississippi State. They had two big losses in this game. They did win this game, though. They won 33-14, whoopity-whoop against Mississippi State. But Nico went down. They bring in Gaston Moore, and he played terrible. He did not look good. They only let him throw the ball 8 times. And Tennessee's, to be honest with you, their rush offense, when he got in the game, it started to deplete as well. And then I think Dylan Sampson got banged up. I think that's actually a bigger loss considerably with what Nico has done this year. Now, he looked okay against Mississippi State, but now I think it's official that Nico is out for this game. So I'm going to roll with my dogs then for sure. I don't think Gaston Moore is good enough to win this game. And I know he's a fifth-year senior. I think he was a transfer from somewhere. But Tennessee's going to have to basically rely on a first-time starter going into Athens. Georgia hasn't played a home game in how many weeks now? It's just been ridiculous how many weeks Georgia has gone without playing home games. They've played more top 10 road games than they've played home games this year. Just disgusting. But nonetheless, I think Georgia's going to win this game. It's going to be like 1-17. I can't trust Carson Beck, though. Georgia's offense has just been terrible. Georgia leads the nation in drops. I think they have the 29 now. Carson Beck, I believe he leads the nation in interceptions now. He had 3 turnovers he had 2. We did recover one of those fumbles, I do believe, but he had 3 fumbles against Ole Miss. It was just terrible. I think Mike Bobo in Georgia finds enough offense to beat Tennessee that they can scrape by, move on to, our elementary school that we play. And then that Georgia Tech game's big now. That Georgia Tech game is much bigger than what people thought in the offseason. So watch out for Georgia Tech, but I think Georgia's going to win this game. And it's going to be with their defense. I think Georgia's going to win a 20-13 type game.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think it's going to be pretty low scoring. I also think both these teams kind of mirror each other because they both still have pretty good defense. Tennessee, I do think, has a little bit better of a defense. Yeah. And a little bit better of a running game. But quarterback-wise, like Carson Beck turns the ball over a lot. Nico doesn't turn the ball over a lot, but he really doesn't hit any plays down the field or inspire me much at the quarterback position. And if he's not playing, I know, like I said, he's not great, but he's better than a guy that's going to be making his first start on the road in Athens. Yeah, I'm going to take Georgia in this situation. if Nico was playing, I probably would take Tennessee. It'd be super close for me, though. I'm going to take Georgia to win this game 23-20. Maybe not. Maybe I'll go, you know what? I'll go 24-17. So I'm going to take the under, and I'm still going to take Tennessee plus 10. I don't love that. I'm going to be honest with you. I hate this line in general. I don't know what, if you force me, I'm going to take Georgia, but I don't love it. I do think this is going to be a relatively close game, a relatively low scoring game. I don't love it. It's going to be very interesting, though. I think weather's going to be a factor as well. Like, if it starts pouring like it did versus Ole Miss, I think that actually favors Tennessee in this game because they're going to want to run the football more, especially with Nico out.
Yeah, and Georgia's offensive line is going to have to play a lot better. Their offensive line played our offensive line played absolutely terrible against Ole Miss. I mean, there was no bright spot on the offensive line. On the offense, you could say, well, ETN, there's something going on with him. He's banged up. He's not healthy enough to get the ball 20 times. So we got to bring in, Cash Jones and Nate Frazier. Nate Frazier, on the other hand, he had a couple bad fumbles against Ole Miss, two really big ones that cost Georgia drives there. So he's going to have to play a lot better. But again, he's a true freshman, so I'll give him that. He gets a pass there. But Georgia did everything in their power last week to lose, just point blank and simple. The play calling wasn't good either. I've been protecting Mike Bobo all week. I get it. You got to look at the stats, though. Our wide receivers are just not good, and they're dropping a lot of passes. Arian Smith is a common one of those receivers that drops too many passes. I mean, I genuinely think he's dropped at least 6 touchdowns this season. I wish I was kidding. The Alabama game, he had like 3 or 4. The Mississippi State game, he had 1. Dylan Bell has dropped passes. So, I mean, everyone's dropped passes, so I can't really rag on one. But Georgia's going to have to play a clean game here. It's Georgia. Georgia has been turning the ball over like it's their job. It's like every week Georgia finds a way to turn the ball over 3 times. Now, they've won those games other than the Ole Miss game, and you could throw in the Bama game, but they've won some of these games in which they've turned the ball over a lot, and that's just simply because of their defense. But yeah, I do believe Gaston, I do believe Nico's out, so that means Gaston Moore is going to be stepping in. I can't take Tennessee here. I could see Georgia blowing out Tennessee now, but I can't. You would have to basically trust Carson Beck. In the offense for Georgia to blow out Tennessee, and I just don't see that happening. I think it's going to be a close game. Lower scoring for sure. First 1-17. That's why I'm taking the Dogs. Dylan Sampson, if he's out, I think that's an even bigger loss because that's pretty much your entire offense now without Nico. And without him, it's going to be hard to see Tennessee score and win this one. So,
yeah, if he's out, then if Georgia loses that game,
that would listen. If Kirby loses this game, he's going to get a lot of heat. I know that for a fact. And last week's Georgia team looked like 2016 Georgia. So I hope that's not the case. And remember, the last time Georgia lost 2 games in a row, they lost at Ole Miss, and they got blown out by Ole Miss, mind you. And then they lost at home to Tennessee on a fluke miracle Hail Mary. And that was 2016. So I hope that's not the case. Trust me, I can't go down and lose to Tennessee on a Hail Mary again. That was just depleting and just demoralizing.
Yeah, they haven't played like they've only played one half of great offensive football the whole year. That was second half versus Alabama. They didn't play good at all in the Texas game. Yeah, they didn't play good at all in the Texas game. Like, the only reason they scored a lot of those points is because Texas was shitting down their leg the whole game, giving the ball at the 30, and then you could score from there. But, yeah, they have not played well. And their defense was really good in that game. And it's been good at certain points, but it hasn't been great either. So, again, like you and I have said, this is just a weird year in the SEC.